Here's some important health news today. Starting today, there are new FDA rules when it comes to mammogram reports.
It must now include breast density. So we're learning more about this change from our 9 health expert, Dr. Payal Kohli, about why this is so important. I mean, many of us have been told this. I was told this a long time ago. You have dense breasts. Well, thanks. I mean, what does that mean? And when do you find that out? Your very first mammogram?
Yes, so the density of our breasts isn't something we can tell by the shape, by the size, by the texture of the breast. And more than half of women over the age of 40 have dense breasts, just like you said. And it's really how much fibroglandular tissue you have versus how much fat you have. So the fat shows up black on a mammogram and the fibroglandular tissue shows up white. And it's important for 2 reasons. One, because if you have more dense breasts, your risk of breast cancer is actually higher because you have more breast tissue. And 2, if you have more dense breasts, it's harder to pick it up on a mammogram. So white on white doesn't show up. Think about looking for a little white pearl on a white carpet, as opposed to a white pearl on a black carpet. So if your breasts are fatty, it's black background with a little cancer or tumor being white. And if your breasts are dense, it's white on white.
There's a lot to talk about here, but let's talk about the changing rules, if you will, because you hope that these changes are made they're progress, but you sometimes wonder if it's governed by cost, if it's sometimes, who's making these changes?
Well, in this particular case, Tom, it is 100% progress. And I think I will accept full blame for the medical community for changing the guidelines so many times that we confuse people. Yep. My personal take, and the science points over and over again, start at 40 if you're average risk. If you're higher risk, you start even earlier. Definitely get a mammogram every year, not every 2 years. And now that we know whether or not you have dense breasts, you may actually need more screening. You may need an ultrasound or an MRI if you're a woman who has dense breasts, because mammograms won't pick it up.
If you're 35, do you know you're at higher risk?
That's the time to start asking those questions. So if you have a family history, if you have BRCA mutation, if you have other factors that put you at higher risk for breast cancer, then you meet with your doctor and say, should I do this earlier? If you want to do it yourself, there's also an online calculator that tells you about your lifetime risk of breast cancer. You put in your background, your numbers, whether you've ever had a breast biopsy, and it spits out a risk for you, and that might help get the conversation jump-started.
Oh, that's super interesting. I didn't even realize that. So, so if you have this right away, you tell everybody and then make decisions for your screening. What else should we know about that? I mean, should we be freaked out? Because it's not like you can do anything about this.
You're not freaked out, but you're also a little bit have your radar up, because you could be missing a cancer. So I've seen many patients with dense breasts in whom the mammograms came out completely normal while they had an active cancer. So it's really time to call your doctor and say, do I need additional screening? Do I need the ultrasound? Do I need the MRI? It's also important to watch from year to year what happens to your breast density, because it can change over the course of your life. So pregnancy, for example, can change your breast density. You gain a little bit weight, that can make more fat tissue in your breast, so that can change the density as well. Or if you go through menopause and get hormone replacement therapy, that can make your breasts more dense.
Over time.
They can change over time. So it's largely genetic, but sometimes medications or what our body is doing from a hormonal state can affect our density. So having this every single year, to me, the FDA has finally gotten smarter about screening. We're not screening every woman in the same way. We're making personalized screening plans based on how your breast looks. And that's why after this, I'm hoping every woman I ask knows her breast density.
You always worry about cost being a barrier to good health. Does this change things as far as the expense of these tests, these exams?
I'm so glad you brought this up, because I know when it comes to cancer screening, people hide behind cost. Now, we've made mammograms free and preventive therapies affordable. But with dense breasts, now you're talking about second testing, which is called orthogonal testing. Insurance companies can put up a stink about covering this. And especially,
yes, they can.
Like MRI. And Kim and I have had this conversation before. So if you're talking about a $1,000 price tag for a preventive screening test that you have to have every year, every other year, like an MRI, that's cost prohibitive.
Does this change that? Does the FDA saying that this test has to be done differently?
This makes every woman know whether she has dense breasts. The next step would be the insurance companies then saying, okay, we will cover it. But the FDA saying that it has to be reported doesn't change that. It also doesn't offer recommendations. So a lot of women might read that sentence and not know what to do with it, because it doesn't say you have to say on there, oh, you need an MRI, you need an ultrasound. So it's really up to us as women to take control of our risk and sort of really take charge of our health.
I'll let you know how my next battle goes. Lost the most recent one, but I'll keep fighting the fight on the price.
You're keep fighting, and you're going to get those MRIs because you have dense breasts.
Okay.